Welcome to Spirit School. I'm Danielle Sarank, a medium and spiritual mentor and storyteller with over a decade experience, here to guide you through the profound intersections of spirituality, healing, and self-discovery. Spirit School is more than a podcast. It's a sanctuary, a place where you can connect with the wisdom of the unseen world, explore the depths of your own soul, and uncover the boundless life force energy within. Whether you're stepping into your spiritual gifts, navigating a healing journey, or seeking tools for a life filled with intention and meaning, you belong here. In each episode is a beacon of light, blending heartfelt stories, practical teachings, and reflections from my own path. Together, we'll celebrate the magic in the mundane and discover the extraordinary in everyday moments. Through Spirit School, we co-create a world where hope thrives, inspiration uplifts, and the power of spirit is undeniable. Welcome to Spirit School. Let's continue this journey of light and transformation together. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit School. Happy 2025. First podcast episode of the year. As I hit record, I am aware that it is currently 11:11 on January 3rd. It's a Friday. And yeah, I'm coming back after a 3.5-month break from podcasting. So we may want to consider this officially a season 2 of Spirit School. Season 2. Things will be very different moving forward for me in life and in business. And we just celebrated at the end of December 6 years as a podcast. 6 years I have been working towards my big dream that has become Spirit School. And so thank you for everyone who has been listening. Thank you for everyone who is tuning back in even after such a big break. I'm sure the algorithms are pushing me down a little bit. So for those of you who have found this podcast, found Spirit School, or are returning to it, I just want to say thank you. I raise my hands to you. I am very excited about the future of the Spirit School podcast, and I'm excited to join you for season 2, 6 years in. There's a lot to share. But for today, I wanted to talk about this declaration around entering my channeling era. As I was reflecting on how to present this topic or how I wanted to speak about, declaring that I'm in my channeling era, I started reflecting back to, the relationship that I had with spirit and all the trust I have had to co-create with the spirit world in these past 11 years of spiritual development and spiritual growth. And I thought about the first time that I really saw the blessings of spirit, and I saw how the spirit world is a force of energy that can be trusted by me. At this time, I was about 2.5, almost 3 years into my spiritual and mediumship development journey. I was driving, I think it was around 350 kilometers round trip to attend a spirit circle and develop under my first mentor. And I developed under her for many, many years. And one day she organized for us a psychic fair so that we could have a stretch assignment, so that we could learn what it's like to read for multiple people and kind of start to build our confidence. It's funny you don't see it like that when you are in it, because it can really challenge your confidence. But again, on the other side of doing things that test us or scare us, or we have to lead ourselves through to show up and do the thing, it's usually on the back end of doing that thing that confidence is built and spiritual self-esteem is starting to form. So this experience was no different. This was in fact my second spirit fair. I had sold out 9 back-to-back readings, an entire day of 30-minute sessions. And I think there's about 10 other readers. And the first event was really exciting. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Still to this day, I organize psychic fairs at Spirit School for my students because I got so much out of them. And I hope to do more this year in 2025. But this spirit fair was a lot different. I was pregnant with my second child. And from the moment I was pregnant with my second child, I experienced pretty debilitating morning sickness. My first pregnancy, I didn't have any morning sickness at all. So it really shook me how deeply this morning sickness took me out. I couldn't do very much without being around a bathroom for at least 20-minute intervals. It was very nerve-wracking. And so I had to drive, almost 200 kilometers to the venue that we were doing our spirit fair in. And I had to pull over multiple times. I was not well. My mentor did tell me the week before, because she knew that I was struggling really badly with morning sickness. She's like, you can't cancel. She's like, you are fully booked out and we don't have any spare spots or spare readers, so you have to come. And I was like, okay, not wanting to let her down. I was going to put my morning sickness aside. And on the way down to the spirit fair, I was pretty much begging spirit. Those are my early spiritual days, right? Spiritual maturity. You learn to lean into more faith and trust, but really early on, you do tend to want to try to control things. And I remember not feeling in control and leaning into spirit, begging them, can you please help me? I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I supposed to do 9 readings? And I went and picked up ginger ale, Canada Dry, for those of you who are in Canada, a childhood classic. When you're under the weather or have a flu, parents would always get you Canada Dry. So I picked up some Canada Dry and some saltine crackers, and I lived off of those all morning. And the whole way down there, I'm like praying. I'm like, Spirit, please come through. Please allow me to feel you. I can't feel anything other than my nausea right now. And I parked up and I started walking to the door of the studio that we were at. And it was almost like this energy shifted as soon as I walked over the threshold of the studio. It was like a switch went off and all my morning sickness went away. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I sat at my table. I put my crackers and my ginger ale there. I remember welcoming my first sitter and just letting them know, just so you know, I am pregnant. I think I was about 6 months pregnant at that time. And I do have morning sickness. So if I do have to get up and run, please don't be alarmed. I will be right back. And I think I did tell like 2 or 3 clients, my first 2 or 3 clients, that, I had this morning sickness and I probably wouldn't be able to perform at my best. Something that we do really early on in readings too is trying to manage the expectations, and we can get into a bit of a bad habit I try to break with the people who develop under me on, telling people why it might not work, or almost like patting people for disappointment. And I remember doing that a lot in my early years. Nobody really called me out on it. I had to call myself out on it much later on. And it was interesting to me because I got through all 9 of those readings with 0 morning sickness. In fact, I only remember going to the bathroom once to relieve myself, and I had absolutely 0 morning sickness. I was able to conduct all 9 sessions with pretty good ease. I had one sitter, I remember, come for 2 sessions in a row because it was actually the mom of the first spirit I ever connected with. It was a beautiful full circle moment for me that, the first time I showed up for an intuitive development class, I purposely didn't sign up for the mediumship class because I didn't think I was a medium. And it was just me and her that showed up at this intuitive development class. And my mentor just said, close your eyes, tell me what you see, because she was very clairvoyant. And I brought through a name, I brought through an age, I brought through a young male, and it turned out to be her son. So this event was actually quite significant for me in my development because she booked in 2 back-to-back sessions with me. And it was cool because her son did come through again, and I was obviously, more developed and trained 3 years in, that I was able to conduct a full reading for her. And it was beautiful, and it felt just so full circle. I absolutely loved it. And when we finished up that class and did our psychic fair, and we were able to keep the money and everything, I think I earned like $250 or something. I think it was like $45 a session. Never had I seen so much abundance in my life either at that time. I was like, wow. I think it was one of the first times I even took money in exchange for the readings. And that was part of the stretch assignment. Like, can you, stand before and open up to spirit under the pressure of XXXXX? And that's what we were really trying to grow through. So I crossed back over the threshold of the studio space to go back to my car. And sure enough, the morning sickness kicks in. I remember having to pull over on the way home every 20 minutes. And I had morning sickness until I delivered my son many, many months later. It was quite fascinating, but I always reflect back on that first experience because I was like, wow, spirit really showed up for me. Wow, my spirit really showed up for me when I was feeling pretty low, pretty ill. And, went on to have my baby. I almost died during that pregnancy. You can go back to past podcast episodes to get more of those stories, but it was really life shifting for me, that pregnancy. So by the time I had my son and, in Canada, we get a year off maternity leave, I had another year to kind of explore the mediumship and explore what my capacity within mediumship was. And I decided not to waste any time. And that's when I launched my brand, Squamish Medium, my YouTube, my website, Squamish Medium, was just 2 months after my son was born and after I recovered from that surgery. So I'd set up a event at a local acupuncture studio called Pins and People. And I decided to do my own version of a psychic fair. And I organized, I think it was 6 back-to-back readings, 20-minute mini readings, I remember calling them. They sold out right away. And this was really my first event in Squamish that was like self-published, like self-promoted, found the venue, found the clients just through word of mouth. And they each paid me $20 for my reading. The funny thing is that the venue rental was also $20 an hour. So I think I only made like $20 or $40 in the end, but honestly, it's never been about the money. And it was just a really beautiful experience. And I was so nervous and I was so excited. It was kind of like my big coming out. And, at home we had a 3-year-old and a newborn. And, just from past podcast episodes that my husband had a bit of a hard time accepting and integrating into this new life that I had, which was rooted in spirituality, a true desire and a real pulling of purpose to be of service in some way through the art of mediumship. On the way to the studio, I remember leaving the house and he was holding the baby. And I said, okay, I'll be back in like 5 hours. And I remember him saying something along the lines of, I can't believe you would rather do that than be here with us and the kids. And I was so blindsided. This was many years ago. So he, don't judge him too hard from the past, because it was a tough transition for us that I've talked about in depth in a past podcast episode. But I remember what it took for me. I used to have a lot of practices before I did my readings to get my vibrations up, to get out of my own way, to work with the busyness of the mind, to combat the imposter syndrome. Like, it is a lot of effort for some of us to step into mediumship confidently, and that has been very much my journey. I'm happy to say I'm there for sure, but these early days, it was really hard to build you up and really easy to tear you down. And I remember just crying. I remember just sitting there saying, oh my gosh, not feeling supported, feeling like I was selfish, feeling like, am I doing the right or wrong thing? And also admittedly, really frustrated, because I'm like, if you knew what it took to hype me up to walk out this door and you're just going to kind of take me down. It was really tricky emotionally. And it was only a 5-minute drive to the studio, and I bawled the whole way. And I remember calling my mentor at the time, like an emergency. I said, this is an emergency. I need to call you. And she took my call right away. And I said, can you do readings sad? And she's like, yes, you can. Trust me. And I was crying all the way setting up the studio. And I remember my first client of the day, I remember her name was Tracy. I remember she brought a picture in her purse. I remember all of that. And she walked through the door, and it was like a veil lifted off of me, and I ended up in this spiritual mode. This veil lifted off of me, the tears went away, the pain in my heart went away, and I sat before these people who booked in the session with me, and I served them that day, and spirit came through. And I left feeling elated. Now I still had to go home and deal with, what had happened earlier, which was unacceptable. Absolutely. And your girl sticks up for herself. Trust me. I am no wallflower. I am no wallflower. And so, I still had the heavy heart, but it was yet another example where I really didn't believe I had the capacity to serve spirit or to be of service to humanity in some way. And for some reason, being in that intention of being of service was enough to be able to connect when the time came for me to connect. And that was the second experience that truly started to build my unwavering faith with the divinity of the spirit world. I started to wonder, maybe I don't need to control so much. Maybe I'm not in control at all. Maybe spirit really does know what they're doing. And these are just two examples, two stories of different times early on that, I would pray to spirit. I would feel that I didn't have the energy or the high vibration to be able to access the spirit world, to be able to serve people. And spirit proved me wrong. They're like, actually, we just need your heart open. Can you open your heart? Guess what? Your heart cracked open. And now we can work through you. So as we move on to 2024, a really hard year for so many of us, no exclusion for me. I would say 2024 for me was a year of hermiting. You didn't hear from me or see me all that much unless you were in my membership, the collective. I showed up a lot there. Instagram definitely showed up for my memes, did a couple reels, showed off Spirit School a little bit because I love this place. We won an award, by the way, last month, the Business Excellence Award, our first full year in business by the Chamber of Commerce. Such an honor. So things are going really, really well over here. But personally, it was a really hard year last year. And I had a lot of grief come up. It was a year of grief. And grief can stop you dead in your tracks. It's very, very true. I had 3 friends pass away from cancer. They were all my age. They were all moms. And, my mother-in-law passed away as well, which was really hard for my husband. His family's here right now, actually from New Zealand visiting, having their first white Christmas with us. And it was just a really hard year for me in a lot of ways. And the first 9 months of the year, I did some readings. I did a couple. And I focused more on my mentoring in the collective. I didn't teach the initiation at all during that year, where I was just feeling bruised. Like, I don't even know how to describe how I was feeling. I would say hermit. I just felt like a hermit. I felt asleep in a lot of ways. And a lot happened, a lot of things you'll probably never hear about, a lot of things you'll probably hear about in the future. But it was a really trying and testing year, and it had so much beauty to it as well. But I came to a point around October, maybe early October, very late September, where a lot of clarity started to come into my awareness after not having a lot of clarity for the whole year. And I just leaned into the trust of the spirit world that I have been building for over a decade now, and reflecting back on all the experiences that I had had with spirit and all the times I have chatted with them with a real honest heart, and how every single time they have shown up for me in some way, maybe a way that wasn't planned by me or expected by me, but they always continue to show up. I had this experience in, I think it was November. We, locally, there's a market called Bespoke, organized by a really lovely lady, Shannon, Lorenz, and it's a very high-end bougie market, and it usually has about 100 tables, and it's in this old train museum. And for years she had asked me to come do readings on the train, but at my price point it just doesn't make sense for a market to, my readings are a little bit up there now, and even in like a micro setting it would have been too much for them to consider having me. So I said to them 2 years ago, why don't you have Spirit School come, and I'll invite some of my collective members who have been developing for a while to come do readings on the train for, a lower price point. So they love that idea. And that's what we have done the past 2 years. We've opened it up to collective members saying, hey, if you want to come earn a little bit, you want to come experience, doing back to back to back readings for a couple days, like come do readings on a historical train, like come have fun doing this. And we've done it now for 2 years, and it's always a highlight for us, for everyone who gets to come do it. For me, I'm always there, networking with people and getting to meet people and have people come meet me. It's just a ton of fun. And what happens is a lot of the vendors expect us there now. So they almost like rush to the table to snag up their bookings. And I also found that there were people who were coming back for a second and third time that wanted to have another reading with their reader. They're considering it almost like a biannual reading experience because it happens every April and November. And so I remember one of the readers coming up to me saying, this is going to be my third time I have read for this person. And I said, that's okay. I've read for some people a handful of times over the past 11 years. I said, just ask for Spirit for all new information. That's it. Just say, thank you, Spirit, for all new information. And that's it. And she went on and she came out and she was like, Danielle, I cannot believe that worked. She's like, I said to Spirit, thank you, Spirit, for all new information. And it worked. It was all new information. She was blown away. I was like, yeah, that's how magical Spirit is. And that's how simple spirituality can be. So a couple weeks later, I was going into a reading, and I just said to Spirit, I thought about that instance with my student, and I thought about this, and I said, you know what, Spirit, this is going to be the best reading of my life. Thank you. And I just went into that reading, and it was such a clear, powerful reading for both of us. I've heard from them so many times since then that like everything I said had come true. Even some of the most oddest things that seemed impossible at the time happened within weeks of us talking. And I remember saying, thank you, Spirit. Thank you for listening. Thank you for, coming through. And this was, it continues to be situations like this that take that unwavering faith in the spirit world to deeper levels, just deeper and deeper and deeper levels. So jumping back a little bit in the timeline, as I kind of started coming out of my fog in September, early October, it was around when I had Marianne Williamson on the podcast, I started to kind of wake up a little bit. And I just said to Spirit, I sat with them, and with a truly honest heart, I said, you know what? I'm in my channeling era. Thank you, Spirit, for working through me in this way. And I could even feel a shift as I repeat those words and how powerful those words are, like leaving my heart, how it cracks my heart open, how I can feel and sense energy around my forearms and my biceps and my back and the top of my crown tingles. I've learned so much over the past few years how powerful our words are. And not only our words, but the intention behind the words. And I've been shown time and time and time and time again that when the words and the intention truly come into alignment, and so it is. And so it is. And I made a declaration to Spirit. I said, I'm in my channeling era. Thank you for supporting me in this. And I booked a group reading. I booked in a ton of readings. I just kind of opened them up on my website. And people just find them, and they booked out right away for October, November, and December. And I had just a lovely time in my channel, just serving Spirit and serving the people who Spirit bring to me. And it really healed my heart in a lot of ways. And I didn't podcast, and I didn't teach all that much. I was going to do the declaration, and I chose not to. I chose to preserve as I was coming out of my hermit season, kind of choosing to hermit, but to preserve a different energy behind the scenes. And it was beautiful because one thing that I noticed the difference in capacity between all the teaching that I do, in the collective, I teach at least 4 times a month. And one thing that I've noticed is that for every hour of class time, there's also an hour or 2 of prep time. So though teaching can on paper be less pressure, or I'm putting in air quotes here, easier. In fact, I see so many of my students who go from development to wanting to serve spirit in a professional capacity, and then serving spirit moving on to a mentorship capacity. I see a lot of people underpricing their mentorship because it comes across as a lot easier. But one thing that I realized through this most recent channeling season is there is a big difference in capacity because, yes, I love teaching. I actually get a bit more joy out of it. I don't know. I feel like I make a bigger impact in the world when I'm mentoring and when I'm teaching. I really do, because I feel like I help more people in that way just because of the ripple effect that it creates. But one of the things about doing the channeling is there's no way to really prepare for it. Like, I kind of go up to my sessions sometimes, I'll always say a prayer and I'll do an intention. And because I live a life of spirituality now because it's my full-time thing, it's like I've been preparing for 11 years for this moment. So it doesn't take as much capacity from me to do the channeling as it does the mentoring and the teaching. But it's interesting for me because I do feel that the mentoring and the teaching brings me more joy and fulfillment. And I have seen over 11 years that it creates a bigger ripple effect and it helps more people. So they're both different for their beautiful reasons. And the channeling just became easier for me after a little while. So that's what I really have been focusing on since October, has been the channeling. And it made me think about the spirit messages. I took a whole year off doing spirit messages, and I really have a desire to bring them back. In fact, I'm going to do a spirit message at the end of this episode. So if you stay to the end, I'll give you a bit of a spirit message here. But I'm doing things that I just haven't done, to wake myself up too out of that sleepy kind of phase of, working through grief and just kind of being sucker punched by life left, right, and center. And I think that was the case for so many of us in 2024. I remember thinking, what will wake me up the most? A group reading. So I did. I put up a group reading for one of my dear friends who just passed away in September. They were doing a fundraiser trying to buy the house, pay off the mortgage for her daughter. She had to leave behind 2 12-year-old twin daughters, and she was a single mom. And so I decided to put together this group reading and, offer all the money for donation for her daughter's GoFundMe. And we were able to raise almost $2,000 doing that, which was incredible. And it was a beautiful experience and I loved it. And one of the most surprising things for me, and maybe this is the lesson of doing something after you've gone through a painful season, after you've gone through a season that really challenged you, is one thing that I noticed when I wrapped up that experience is I wasn't nervous at all. And if you've been listening to my podcast for a long time, you know how big of a breakthrough that is. In fact, I just held a solstice event here at Spirit School HQ for 27 people. It was so popular. It sold out a month out. People were emailing me, messaging me, DMing me, texting me, please let me in, please let me in, please let me. Like, it was so popular. And something like that would have thrown me off in the past. It would have built up a lot of expectation within myself. And I remember leaving that class and that experience and just saying, wow, I wasn't nervous at all, in the slightest. So by declaring to the spirit world that I'm in my channeling era, by setting up a life that brought in more channeling into my life, I was able to see how much growth I got from the shitty year that was 2024. And the other thing too that just blows me away is I just said to spirit, with such certainty in my heart, I am in my channeling era now. And they have shown up every single time, and they always do, and I never doubt them. So it's been this beautiful journey these past 11 years of having these experiences that almost contract you, squeeze you to a point where you have no choice but to have faith and trust. You have no choice but to have hope and to just lean into it and fall into it. And so it's been really beautiful, all these different examples. And, more courageously, I was talking to Spirit as, you come into a new year, and we're lucky in spirituality where we get a lot of new starts, not just the new year. New sun seasons, moon cycles, days of the week. We have so many new starts when we are spiritually evolving. It's just another opportunity to reflect. And I was walking with Spirit, and I was talking about, all the things I want to embrace in 2025: leadership, courage, bravery, pride. And I said to Spirit, this is a year I am going to walk without shame. So thank you for walking with me this year while I learn what life is going to be like without carrying any shame. And what was fascinating around that declaration as well was immediately I got an experience gifted to me where that was tested, where a group of people did try to impart shame upon me, and it didn't. I felt no shame. Did I get triggered for a second? Yes, it's never nice knowing that people don't like you, of course. But I didn't have shame, and it didn't take me down. So there is something, a lot of things, a really big thing to being very intentional with your words, being sure in your heart of what it is that you are trying to bring in your life, what you're trying to call in, what you're welcoming in, what you're reflecting back into the world, the words that you choose, the phrases that you pick. It matters. And I'm telling you, the spirit world is listening. They are listening. So what are you sharing with the spirit world? What are you putting out into the ethers, into the energetic field around you? What declarations are you making? And have you been able to look back and see on your own journey the different times in your life where you have said something from your heart with such certainty that of course it came true? Without a doubt, that's exactly what happened. Can you look back and see how powerful your intentions have been, how powerful your words have been? And can you find stories and examples throughout your life where this is the case and this is the truth? That's my hope for you, is you listen to this podcast episode. And I'm going to stay on my channeling era for a while. I'm got a couple group readings booked here at Spirit School, one in January, one in February, just praying for continual good health while I plan out these events. And I'm really enjoying doing them. When we did the TV filming in November of 2022, this is what they were really interested in capturing as well, were group readings and private readings, which is a lot of fun too. And so I got a couple in-person group readings here at Spirit School HQ planned for January, February. And it's something that I'm going to be bringing into the collective starting this month too. I'm going to be doing group readings for my members for the collective. Not just to offer a service, but we have so many developing intuitives there as well. Not all of them, but we can learn a lot from watching other people work in unedited and unfiltered ways. So, I'm stepping into leadership and courage doing that for my students for the first time in 5 years as a membership. So I'm really excited for that. Our first group reading there is going to be on the 17th, I think. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the collective here for a second and then give you a spirit message before I tune off and go meet with my collective membership right after this. But yeah, the format of the Spirit School Collective has changed. It's going to be more of me, a lot more me. We are going to be gathering every Friday in the collective, and every week's going to have a different theme. This first week of January, we're going to be focusing on restoration, and I'm going to guide people through a visualization. Next week, we're going to be gathering a community and doing a community experience. I'm not sure if you've heard of that podcast, the telepathy tapes, but it's pretty mind-blowing. And I think we're going to have a group discussion on telepathy and the podcast, the telepathy tapes. I have a hard time saying that word. The Friday after that, I'll be doing a group reading for my membership. And then the week after that, we're going to be developing. I'm going to be paying attention to what my members are talking about, what it is that they're currently working on and working through. And then I'll create a master class to teach at the end of the month to help them on the development journey. So I'm really excited about that. And of course, we have all the other things that members are hosting. We have a book club. We learn astrology from Chloe. We learn human design with Christy. Will does sensitivity training every couple weeks, more somatic self-care, tending to self. Leilani's doing trauma-informed breath work for the collective. And so there's a lot happening every single month. But the collective is the future of Spirit School. The new things that we're adding this year in the membership as well is we are actually going to be doing development days every quarter. So a whole Friday, you can either travel and come to Squamish and come to Spirit School and spend a whole day here with me developing in a live workshop, but there'll also be online portions so that it will be accessible for people who can't come out to Squamish to come for these development days. But we're going to do them in summer, spring, and fall this year, and that's included in the membership as well. So a lot of things coming into that space, and I'm going to be doing the initiation again in February. This time it's going to be a 10-week mediumship experience. The first 6 weeks are going to be, more than foundation. Anyone who comes in, whether you're a seasoned medium or a baby medium, it will really fit everybody. I've done this 11 times. I have a way of working with both beginner and advanced mediums in one experience. It's quite beautiful. And then we're going to be doing a 4-week sprint at the end of the regular initiation, and it's included in the initiation this time, on group readings and teaching you how to center yourself in your power, how to set up a group reading, how to conduct a group reading, working with multiple spirits, working with multiple sitters. A lot of beautiful things come out of the development, including public speaking and communication, and leading yourself comes through doing group reading. So we're going to be focusing a lot on that. And what we do every January is if you buy an annual membership for the collective, you get the initiation for free. So it saves you about $1,000. So you can spend an entire year with me as your mentor. And 2025 is going to be big. There are things that are happening in 2025 I cannot talk about, and it's killing me. But there's a lot happening in 2025. And so you'll want to get a seat behind the scenes. It's going to be a big year, and I'm really, really excited. So hopefully you do consider coming into the collective, or you do join me for the initiation. I will be teaching the initiation once this year. I'll be doing the declaration in the summer and the calling on spiritual entrepreneurship in the fall. So I'm really excited about that. And in fact, if you sign up for the collective, you can choose any of those for free. If you've done the initiation, you're like, I'm over it, sis, you can do the calling or the declaration. You could pick any of those programs for free with your annual membership. So hopefully you'll come take a look at that. And I'm going to tune into the spirit messages and just bring you a message that Spirit was wanting me to bring you. So what I was leaning into and what I was picturing and receiving for you, those of you who have kind of stuck around and listening, acknowledging that this isn't for everybody on the planet, but just everybody who is drawn to listen to this, is adding a layer of sacredness to everything that you choose to do this year. What Spirit is showing me is simple things like you have to do some boring things. We can't avoid the mundane of our life. In fact, the mundane helps make those special moments even more special. So what they're showing me is one of the things that I dislike the most about running a business is money. Dealing with money and like bills and budgeting and earning. And I just want to do my spirit work, And I will avoid time and time and time again doing the things I need to do monthly to keep the business going in a really healthy way. And what I've chosen to do in the past is to continue to do it once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. And then I end up in a cycle of not loving my business. And so what Spirit is showing me right now is making it sacred, lighting a candle. saying a prayer, inviting in inspirers around financial wellness and well-being to come near me as I'm doing this work, to uplift me, to help me see a perspective of joy and forward movement when it comes to what it is that I have to do in this moment. They show me you even raking leaves in your yard and crumbling one up and offering it back to the land, saying thank you for the beauty of your lush green during the summer. I offer you back to this land to be mulched back into beautiful, healthy soil for the new ones to come. This could be planning a meal for your family and setting a plate aside for somebody who has recently departed and saying, thank you for enjoying this meal with us in spirit. Spirit is showing me you starting a new project and maybe planting a seed, a literal seed, a plant beside you while you are building your dream, your product, your book, your program, your idea, your invention. Planting a seed alongside with the growth of what it is you are trying to growing. Spirit is reminding us that there is sacredness in every moment, and it is tuning into this sacredness as an intentional practice that will lead us to more fulfillment in life, even with the most mundane of tasks. So Spirit asks that we move around this year by just saying, how can I make this moment more sacred? They're reflecting back to me how even recording this podcast, I haven't recorded a podcast in almost 4 months. And one of the things that I did that I've never done before is I put music on in the background because it helps me with my cadence and because it helps me sink into energy more deeply. And I made this podcast episode sacred just by the simple act of putting on beautiful restorative music in the background. And it helped. It made it more sacred and it made it fun to return to. So look around where you can provide offerings, where you can find beauty, where you can add more sacredness into your everyday. And my belief is that you will walk this next season of your path feeling more fulfilled and filled with more light. So I want to say thank you for joining me for this first episode of season 2 of the Spirit School podcast. New intro definitely coming for you. And I wish you well until we meet again on this platform. Bye, friends. Thank you for joining me on Spirit School today, friends. I am so grateful for this time that we spent together exploring the power of spirit, the depths of healing, and the magic of self-discovery. My hope is that each episode leaves you feeling inspired, empowered, and connected to the boundless energy of your own soul. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I invite you to take the next step on your journey by joining me in the Spirit School community. Inside, you'll find a vibrant space filled with like-minded souls, access to exclusive teachings, live mentorship opportunities, and the support to deepen your trust in your spiritual gifts while embracing your humanity. Visit myspiritschool.com to learn more and become part of this growing family of seekers and light bringers. Let's continue to co-create a rich life with spirit, love, and purpose together. Until next time, keep shining your light and walking your soul's path. Take care, my friends, and be well.